Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tax Resolution Help Center. My name is May. I will be hosting today's session and introducing today's speaker. I will also be coordinating the Q&A chat session at the end of the session. I want to congratulate all of you for taking time to deal with your taxes from all sources, including income tax, payroll tax, property tax, excise tax, and sales tax. Represent a 35% to 60% reduction in your personal savings and wealth. As you probably know, those with 1% of wealth in this country have experts to help them pay a small percent of tax. Our goal is to help you reduce how much you pay in tax by educating and informing you on ways to reduce past, present, and future tax expenses. We think you are entitled to live a happier, healthier life by keeping more of what you earn and getting the taxman off your back. Our goal is to provide you good information with the opportunity to ask questions that are important to you. The presentation itself will last 20 minutes, plus 20 to 30 minutes for you to ask questions by chat. I will select the questions and present them to today's expert. If you wish, you can include your first name and your state. That would be great. Other than that information, your identity is not mentioned. The information you are receiving in this session is not specific tax advice. If you want specific tax advice for your situation, you are free to contact today's expert or any of our experts at Tax Resolution Help Center. As you know, these group sessions are included in your do it yourself membership fee of $20 per month. If you are not yet a member, please sign up today. We need your financial support. And to better understand what might be on your mind during the session, I might include some pooling questions to ask you. I will then finish with a 5-minute wrap up. Also, a survey will be sent looking for your feedback. And finally, this session will be recorded. The topic for today's session is dealing with IRS letters, notices, interest, and penalties. The tax expert for today's session is Callie Coglin. Callie is a CPA, the chief executive of Everyday CPA and founder of Tax Resolution Help Center. Kelly has been a CPA for over 20 years and helped countless individuals and businesses remove, reduce, resolve past, present, and future taxes so they can live a happier, healthier life. Kelly says he loves seeing the relief his clients experience when they get the IRS off their backs. With that said, introducing Kelly Coglin.
Hello, Maylene. Thank you for the introduction. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you for that. Well, it's a Monday morning, and I've got a lot of work to do. This is right in the middle of tax season. And so I thought what I'd do today is just do a quick overview of the 5 easy tips to resolve IRS or state tax letters, just kind of plow through that again. That's a recurring theme. And then I'm going to take each week, I'm going to take kind of a new topic, subtopic of that. So the general, here's 5 tips to deal with these things. And then more specific, each week we'll take a new topic specific to that. I always like to start with this graphic here of what happens when you don't deal with your IRS notices and letters. And when I say IRS, I mean state as well, because they're all pretty much the same. So I don't want to have to keep referring to state IRS. I'll just say IRS. Um, uh, they're the mother of all tax collectors. Although California and New York, they're pretty aggressive too. So they're a close second and third, I suppose. But getting a notice is kind of like when you get a notification that your car is overheating or your toilet's clogged. You know what the indicators are for those things, than a tax notice. Those are 3 things that don't improve over time if they're not addressed. And a tax notice is very similar. It just doesn't get better with time. So when you get a notice, it's normally not an audit. It's simply a notice that the IRS is saying, hey, we have a question about some things. It could be a mismatch on some financial information that was submitted by a bank or an employer or a broker, um, or it's just something that they're not expecting. There's many different notices, a couple hundred, I believe. Forgot where that number is. It's somewhere in here. I think I cover it. I forgot the number right now. 204 types of letters and notices. 6 million CP 2000 notices get sent out every year. But um, the first thing you want to do when you get one of these notices is make sure it's you that they are notifying. Believe it or not, there are times that the wrong notice gets sent and people are digging into it and it's not them. Make sure it's you. Uh, there are things you can do to validate, verify that, but the obvious one is Social Security. These are all here, but make sure it's you. Tax year. This is a key thing here. Is probably the second most important thing in the resolution process. The tax year will be disclosed on this. So you might have issues in 2010. You might have two issues 2011, 12, 13. Notices normally don't get bundled up into a one big group notice. They'll send you a notice for each of the years. And since I'm on that topic, you will notice when you get a notice that if you're a married couple filing separate or joint, that each of you will get the same notice. So that tends to kind of freak people out a little bit. I recommend both couples, if the couple's together, X out the other one, just get rid of it. Once you validate that it's a duplication, it just adds to confusion. You only need to respond to one of, or only one needs to be responded to, not both of them. So get rid of the other one so it doesn't kind of create more noise for you. So identity, tax year, notice type, and this is where things can vary. So I pointed out earlier, there's 204 different types of notices. So the notice type will be good. That'll be here on the top two. This is a CP 2000. So those are the first three things you do. Then you get into what was the purpose of the notice? What are they asking for? Are they asking for, do they believe that I didn't report enough income? If so, what is the income that they believe I should have reported? Typically, that is income that a third party has notified the IRS that you received. It could have been W-2 wages. It could have been a 1099 NEC, 1099 miscellaneous. It could have been, those are the common thing. Could be a broker notified there was sale of securities. That typically creates, it's an expectation that they expected to see that value of security sales in there. Keep in mind that the IRS isn't as concerned about which broker it was or which stock it was. They add up the total proceeds. Let's say it's $100,000, and if you only reported 50,000, you'll get a notice. That simple. If you put in 100,000 in stock sales of any or security sales, that typically will cure the problem. Then it just gets at the basis of that. How much did that stock cost? The IRS, fortunately, are less sophisticated about basis, especially stock, legacy stock that's been on the books, your books for a long time. They can't really track that, but there's a basis reported by brokers. They can certainly track that. So, I mean, you want to file an accurate return, but proceeds, that's the major stock proceeds is a big one. So you look at the purpose, then you get to the resolution part of it. And this is where we hope that over time, if you attend these sessions, you'll learn how to, number one, you'll learn to prevent an exception or a notice from coming out. There's some tips that we cover on other sessions on preventing these things. But the fifth step to resolve it is, what is the resolution path? Is it get your broker statement and report the sales and then the cost basis of that? Is it amend your return and add another W-2? Add some miscellaneous income, whatever it is. It could be missed dividends, interest, a number of things on that CP 2000 at least. But it may not always be unreported income. But these five things typically are required in just about every IRS letter: identity, tax year, notice type, purpose, resolution. So one of the things I thought I'd cover today is I actually just came across this yesterday in filing a tax return. Is a concept that the IRS has added to more tax return processing. It's not really a notice, so it technically doesn't belong in this category, but it's kind of like the IRS's tactic to prevent notices from having to be sent out, because it's a pain. It's certainly pain for taxpayers, but it's a pain for the IRS also to have to be staffing up this, sending out the letter. They do it with artificial intelligence. That's no problem. They just bang out these letters, and then you got to respond to it. But then the processing of it, the next step, that resolution part, that can be a time-consuming part. I've had to spend hours with IRS officers, revenue officers, going through the stock sales and matching it with cost basis. That's labor intensive. That's not good. So what the long-term trend for the IRS will be to make sure that there are kind of systemic internal controls in place that would prevent notices from having to be sent out. For instance, right now, you will notice that in 1095As, that's the marketplace health insurance, the IRS is able to block the filing, the electronic filing of your tax return, if your 1095A information doesn't match what they have. And so they put these controls in place that if it doesn't match, and it's a pain sometimes, I've had to help people track down 1095As that they had for a month, and then they change insurance. But if you don't get it right, you won't be able to file it. And the reason that's so important to the IRS is that that's the health insurance premium that the government kind of helped you fund, and that was based on an estimate of income from like the prior year, or when you bought it, that you said that, well, I think my income is going to be 15,000. Let's say it turns out to be 3x that, 45,000, right? Well, the premium they paid for was excessive, and so they want to recapture that. And it could go the other way around, right? It could be that normally it doesn't, I've found, but sometimes it does. But they want to match that so that they don't have to worry about overpaying a refund or underpaying. So they will block the return from being successfully electronically filed until you get it right. And what I saw yesterday was not in the 1095A area, but it was related to the forgiveness, the pulling out of your retirement funds from your 401k and for your IRA. The IRS was forgiving the taxation of that for allowing you to spread it out over 3 years. And this is the third year to pay that back. It was the repayment was a third, and it gets paid back, as in technically it's not get paid back. It's what I mean to say is that this is the third year of reporting that income. So you reported a third of it when you took it out during COVID, a third of it in 2021, and then a third of it in 2022. That's what many people did. So this is the third year of that. And there were a lot of mistakes in year two on that. And so the IRS has controls in place now that say, if you don't get that thing right, and I will say that some of the tax software is struggling to get that right too. So it can be a bit of a pain to get right. Again, that's not a notice or letter, but it's kind of a sophisticated advance notice. It's a note. It's a preventive tactic control in lieu of a notice or letter, so that they don't have to send you a notice or letter. And that's what you'll be dealing with this year in your tax return filing. So that's my tip for the day on that. It's hot off the press because I helped a client deal with that yesterday, and it took some time to sort it out because it was a new client. I didn't have his prior year payments. But that's it for me. Any questions to deal with today, or can I get back to work?
Yes, thank you so much for the call. But we do have one question here. This is actually from Facebook. And his question is, do I need to hire someone to help me deal with an IRS letter?
I guess that's yes and no. Depends on um, we. Our goal at Tax Resolution Help Center is to kind of empower you and educate you to handle this stuff yourself. I mean, as part of that, we look at it like taxes represent, a big percentage of your overall wealth. It's like 30 to 60%, something like that, a big number. And I don't know, it just seems like if you spend a lot of time analyzing when you buy a car, can you afford the car? So you go through that. Same thing with a home. Um, those are big expenses, and taxes are equally a big expense from all sources. So that's my long-winded way of saying it. Yeah, we think you can do it yourself, but time is a factor. And I will say this: if you can't if you don't have things like an access to a printer, or if you don't have access to a fax machine, if you don't, like one of those electronic fax machines, if you struggle to some people just have a mind block over things related to numbers and tax. If you're that type of person, which is fine, that's fortunately